All right, this is changing tack a little bit, but this says, given rising ocean levels in the Pacific in particular, what are your party's policies regarding climate change refugees?
David Popplewell.
Climate change is very much a debatable point. You talk to any scientist you want to, they will have a particular answer, and other scientists will have a completely different answer again. I believe climate change is there, but the question remains, is it caused by human? That's I didn't realise you had a qualification in science.
I'm going to pause the clock here just to say that in the spirit of fairness, some of our other candidates have been able to respond uninterrupted, and so they get their flow. We're keeping them to time. Can you save your sort of verbal judgment to the conclusion of what they have to say? You've got 40 seconds, David.
All right, well, as far as the New Conservatives is concerned, you know, we've got to look at all of these things. We've got very, very good scientists in New Zealand. If, in fact, this is a reality, we've got to come up with solutions and be aware of it. We're not saying it doesn't exist. What we are saying, we need to get New Zealand scientists, people that really can understand what is really going on and get the very, very best advice possible. No good coming out and throwing a whole heap of words out and saying, is it on, is it not on, do you believe it, do you not believe it? Let's get the actual reality. If it is a reality, let's get our people, New Zealand scientists, that can actually advise on the very best way forward.
Anthony Wollins.
Interesting, isn't it? Climate change. Now, the reality is that the seas are rising, and they have been for centuries, and they will again. The point is also that the weather has changed. The point is that we have more disastrous weather, more other issues going on. New Zealand's first defence policy is one that has climate change, or more's the point, something to do about it, and that's security. When there's a problem, they call on the Defence Force. So we've increased the Defence Force and its ability to actually respond to that, especially in the Pacific. And if there's refugees, we will be able to assist with them the best we can. This is not a situation that's going to go away anytime soon. Again, we need innovation, we need tech, we need ideas, and we need to pull together to find a way forward in the future. Party vote New Zealand first.
William Wood.
So our party doesn't have a specific policy around climate refugees yet because we are still in a position we are attempting to prevent that from becoming necessary. National's absolutely dedicated to taking pragmatic, scientific approaches to dealing with environmental issues. Number one example being this current government's decision to ban oil and gas exploration sounds absolutely fantastic on paper. What's happened? Our coal imports have increased by 112% because our renewable or our energy production through gas has decreased. So the reality we're facing in this country is that we need to be taking sensible steps to deal with environmental damage. That's why we've announced a national infrastructure bank that will invest in renewable energies in a pragmatic and reasonable way that won't up our electricity costs and won't damage our ability or our cost of living. Before we get to a point where we have to deal with climate refugees, I would rather that we got to a point where we were attempting to stop it and to mitigate it before we got there.
Jack Phillips. Jack Phillips is passing. We move to Tangi Utikere.
Absolutely, climate change is an issue. And if we try and connect the dots, because there are two components to that, one is around the reality of climate change, the other is the resultant effect on some communities and therefore climate refugees and our responsibility. Our unique position in this part of the world, in the South Pacific, actually leaves us with some obligations to our smaller island nations and cousins. And I'm not just talking about those island nations for whom actually the inhabitants are New Zealand citizens. You know, my father came to this place when he was 8. He's a New Zealand citizen born on Aitutaki in the Cook Islands. So for us in my party, it's actually around our global and civic responsibility. And if you look at the refugee quota, aside from climate responsibilities, we have increased that, and we're proud of that. So if we're looking at connecting the two, certainly we'd be open to it. We do have obligations, but we need to be considering a number of different factors in making that decision.
Sharon Lyon.
Climate change, absolutely, it's happening. The thing that I am wondering about is that a few years ago, the big buzzword was global warming. And as people were experiencing some of the coldest temperatures ever, that kind of fell away. There was a big sign up, there was money towards this global warming and ideas about what had to happen for that. I think climate change potentially from other science, from the wider range of scientists, are saying it could also have something to do with solar flares and a magnetic shift of poles. I don't know. I'm not the expert. There are many experts with many different ideas about it. Is it a concern? Absolutely. Do we need to look at it and take it seriously? Absolutely.
Tiana Tumioni.
Oh man, how do I unpack climate change denial, refugees, and all that in 1 minute? The thing is, climate change is real. The overwhelming global consensus is that it is real and that it is man-made. Earlier this year, the Australian bushfires, we had the California fires, we've had the Amazon on fire as well, we also had the Arctic on fire. Even in Aotearoa, New Zealand, every other week we're having a once-in-a-100-year storm. It's here already. The thing about refugees as well is that refugees are covered under the Refugee Convention, and that's people that are fleeing from war. So it's actually a different kind of category. So what the Greens are about is supporting immigration for people that are displaced by climate change. And I'm like Tangi as well. My father was born in the islands. My father was born on the island of Atiu as well. I've worked all around the Pacific. The oceans are rising. So for example, you have water desalination as well. There is a lot there, and we need to actually get on with it. Thank you.
No rights to reply? Oh, Anthony Woolen.
Thank you. I actually quite agree with quite a few of those things that our Green Party colleague just said. The other side of this is that New Zealand First brought back rail. Rail reduces our carbon footprint, reduces the heavy traffic and heavy trucks on the road, and increases our ability to actually deal with some of our pollution issues. So your party vote New Zealand First for rail.